Hi, my name is Stephen Bennett and I'm a principal at Caravanserai Project. This video is about impact, and it's going to be a little different than you might expect. This is not about measurement and evaluation. This is about how to actually deliver the impact. There's a lot of meanings to that word, so it's a little difficult to approach, but it's more than just doing good work. It's having an outcome. So we're going to talk about how to make that happen, and we're going to talk about it in the context of transformational organizations and how to create a big breakthrough in impact. And it's a combination of things. It's having a framework, which we often start with in these videos, having a mindset on how to approach impact, but maybe a little difference is we're going to emphasize the competency in delivering your promise to your beneficiaries and how organizations need to do that and how to leverage your ecosystem. Now, I'm going to tell you, I have a finance background. Every time I get into a situation, I'm always forced into the chair of the finance committee or managing budgets or these kinds of things. And it's not because I think I have such a talent there, but I, like a lot of folks who have run organizations, I got to figure out how to make things work. I got to figure out how to deliver the goods. And that's what so many organizations struggle with, and yet you have them talking about, I need more money, or I need to get my measurements and evaluation down so I can get donor money, but they are not paying enough attention on delivering the goods. So we're going to talk about that. There's a framework that can help you deliver impact ongoing, and in many of our videos we talk about a framework, and in this one there's a few key things we want to talk about. Some are obvious, some maybe are not. One, of course, is you need to have a clear view of your desired impact and be able to describe it. You need to know who you're serving, who the real end user is. You also need to focus on the beneficiary experience and understand that that experience needs to, in an accumulated way, have an outcome of social change. So if you're training and developing future leaders, the experience for that person in your program has got to be transformational in itself. That experience has to reflect your values and your mission and your desire for impact. As they grow and develop as leaders, they as a group will have a social impact change. So that's an example of how what you do for the individuals results in a bigger social change. You also need to keep asking why, and why what you're doing matters. That constant questioning will help keep you focused on your mission and focused on having the real impact. You need a strong story. You need to be able to tell that compelling story that is authentic and meaningful to people, because that's the way you communicate. It's not facts, it's not numbers, it's finding the right stories that tell your story and tell your impact. Sorting. Sorting is one of the biggest skills that you need in the future, because we're getting so much data, so much information, so much input. How do we sort it? I always think of the Harry Potter hat, sorting hat. And as a future manager, if there's one tool I would like to complement my work, is to have my own sorting hat. And last of all, you need to focus and deliver the goods, deliver the promise, and have an organization that can do that. And as a person who has run organizations, I love all this framework. It's very helpful, but I want to make sure I get things done. So to me, this is the fun part. How do you deliver on your promise of that beneficiary experience? How do you deliver the goods? So there's 4 steps, and I actually like to get a spreadsheet and list everything. and go through my 4 steps. And the first step is to define the experience. And let's go back to the leadership training. Easy for people to find out about. Good referral system to get people in the program. The experience values them, respects them, good training, good role modeling, peer group, issues as they leave the program, like how to build an alumni and an ongoing peer support group. All those things you may want to deliver in a training program, okay? So if that's their experience, what do you need to deliver? Well, you need to deliver relationships with referral organizations, a marketing campaign, or outreach campaign. You need to deliver a space, a group of programs that actually change and develop people's skill sets, on and on and on. So you need to define the experience. You need to specify the deliverables. List your experiences you want. What do you have to deliver to make those experiences occur? The third column, you list your skills and capacities that are required and necessary to make those deliverables happen. So you need people who know these kinds of things. You need a program on marketing. You need to be able to handle 20 people, or how many are in your program. You need to define all the skills and capacity required. And then in your 4th column, so how much does that cost? You're going to put a person through a summer program, a summer camp on leadership. So how much is the space going to cost? How many people involved in the faculty? What are you going to have to pay them? How about administrative support? What about educational material? Maybe it's a camp, so how much is the cost of room and board? You need to figure out what kind of structure is going to work and what the cost is. But what I love about this, if you do it right, you move from the beneficiary's experience to the deliverables, to the skill and capacity, to the structure and cost, and you've got a budget. And I love budgets, because budgets are really the plan. You talk all day about your ideas. You know that most plans don't exactly work the way you've planned it. The exercise is good, the plan is good, but you know you have to manage. That's where it's not a science, it becomes an art. But your guidelines, your dedication, your distribution of resources is based on your budget. So I love budgets, and the idea of this is you figure out what it's really going to cost and what you're going to have to do to deliver the goods, to have the beneficiary have the experience that you really want them to have. The next thing I want to talk about is working within your ecosystem, your community network. Working alone doesn't work. Let's say you're running a program for parents, and it's a great program, but they can't get there, or they haven't had time to get the groceries bought or pick up their child from school. You depend on a lot of other things to make your work successful. So you need to work with your ecosystem. You need to work with the system around the people that you're serving. And it is the way not only to secure your success, if you learn how to do that well and leverage your relationship with stakeholders, it will give you jet fuel in having your impact. So system analysis is very helpful. It's really for you about spending time and making sure you and your team and your leadership understand how things work, how the government works, what are the regulations around what you do, what are the funding issues, what are issues around transportation and communication. In this, you should be able to identify really opportunities and maybe some untapped resources you haven't accessed before, and you may need to make a few changes to get those resources, and it also helps you identify barriers. Part of the outcome of this is that it may also guide you in your advocacy work for system change. Nearly everybody I know who wants to move from that transactional organization to a transformational organization takes on an advocacy role by the very nature of what you do. So there's a lot of ways to do this system analysis. You can bring in some great consultants. You can pay them a lot of money. The truth is you can get most of this by having a well-informed small group of people do a quick and efficient analysis. You usually know a lot of this stuff already, particularly if you've been doing this for a while. You're a content expert. A group of well-informed people can do what you need to do and really determine what you need to do, and also identify other sources of information that you may need. So the last piece I want to focus on impact is about our stakeholders. It's more than the ecosystem. It's the people who are not your competitors, but people that have an intrinsic interest in what you're doing. And it may be a funder, it may be community groups, it may be other people that you know in the community who have an interest in what you're doing. And it, like the kind of spreadsheet I was talking about how to move the customer experience into really being able to cost out what it takes to deliver it. This to me also is a sorting process. And it's understanding and making a comprehensive list of our stakeholders, the people who are engaged. And I typically like to choose like the top 10 who have the most influence, good or bad, on what we're doing. And then I want to strategize around those relationships. So I would suggest that you take them and say, okay, these guys could be a real support to me, and are. These guys, I'm not particularly interested. If I could get them interested, they might be of support. And these guys actually are kind of a problem for me. What I'm doing may threaten them, or they're going to feel competitive. And then I strategize. So how do I get those who care about me and would support me more engaged appropriately, and we develop the trust and opportunities for partnership? The second group is, how do I get people who are not seemingly interested, who I think could be interested and helpful, how do I engage them? And the third group is, of course, I'm always thinking that because somebody feels like opposition, they can't also be supportive. But if it's a real problem, you want to figure out how they can't do damage to you, how to negate their ability to damage or hurt you. And sometimes it's just about the way you communicate or building a support system around yourself. So it's a strategizing process against the list of stakeholders, not against them, but for them. Also, in that process, you want to start identifying key players that you can partner with. In this whole area, when you're working on understanding the ecosystem you're working in and the stakeholders that you have to work with, this does a couple of things for you. One is that you really start learning and kind of absorbing the social political impact of what you're doing and those people in that world, which guides you in two ways. One, helping you understand your advocacy work and who you can do advocacy work with, how it fits together, because when you advocate for the environment and housing, there's often a lot of conflict. If you can figure out how to make that work together, you've just made a big breakthrough, let me tell you. And second of all, it gives you a pathway on your external work. We talk about running your organization, but a CEO and a leader not only has to build a team and operate things, it becomes over time a much more of a job of external relationships and communication. You become the communication person and you become the master of external relationships. So doing this kind of analysis is very helpful, particularly when you're either transforming yourself or you're doing startup. Okay? So I want to end with this last piece, and that is what I kind of started with. We didn't talk about focus on measurement and evaluation, and I know that there's tons of stuff out there on research, on pilots, on literature that can help you sort this out. And I know that a lot of people live under the crush of donors being very prescriptive about what they will fund if you can evaluate it. And I have a little problem with this, because does it mean that if it's not easy to evaluate, it doesn't have value? I have a problem with that. So that's why we at Caravanserai tend to focus on what are those key things that make you have strong impact, and not just on measuring and evaluation. So putting this all together, we think these are the things that really create impact, and they're having the right set of mind, making sure you understand how to deliver your promise, and understanding how to build your relationship with external forces, your stakeholders, your funders, and others in your ecosystem. Thank you for watching. We have 4 breakthrough videos on leadership, sustainability, impact, and the transactional organization versus the transformational organization. All 4 come together to create a story around the big breakthrough. So if you found this helpful in any way, leave us a like. Feel free to check out the other videos, and you can download our free ebook on big breakthroughs.